Boxes to build, Vokey style. Let's see what we're going to do today. Welcome back to the McGolf Shop, Jim McCleary, and we have a boxes to builds from Arkansas. Yeah, Arkansas. Now, there's a story behind this. This golfer sent us a package of irons once before to build, and the package arrived in a very nice way, disheveled, and it was missing the heads. So we called him and asked him, hey, did you really want us to put the heads on here, or what's going on? He says, no, I sent them. And after some tracking this and that and the other, it was determined somebody got into it and took the heads. All right, so we have another build coming. So in replace of that, this golfer decided to send us some Vokey wedges. All right, they are the Vokey SM8. All right, the SM8. And the SM8 is one of their latest ones, and they have the Vokey wedge, is one of the top wedges out there, right? Mr. Vokey is a hell of a wedge guy, knows what he's been doing a long time, knows all the ins and outs, and they have a series of their own grinds, and there are tons of them, right? F's, M's, D's, C's, you just name it. Pick a letter, right? K. And the cool part about it is to understand which one that you have, and it's cool because he's got different ones on each one. So let's watch this. So you can tell if you look right down in here, right down in there, that it tells you what that is. So this one's an F grind. That's a 50. And basically the F grind, if you look at the bottom of that guy, there's really not a whole lot to it, right? There's not a whole lot to it. Nice concavity right here. There's not very much. There's just a hint of heel relief, not very much toe relief. Basically regular iron stuff, okay? Now the 54 is an S. You can look in there and it's an S. Now the S is a little bit more relief, so it's got a little bit more on the trailing edge taken off, a little bit there, probably about the same amount, and this is where this one's coming from, a little bit more in the back and the heel relief. Okay. The lob wedge, on the other hand, is an L. Let me get that. There it is, the L. Now, if you look at this guy, this is what you call a utilitarian wedge. There's a truckload of heel, a truckload of toe, some relief, but it's a little bit wider right in that area. Now, did they make it wider on purpose? I think it's a function. Basically, it's a function of increasing loft. You get extra sole width, all right? But this one is one that's going to be able to lay open quite easily. And that's what we're looking at. All right. So apparently our golfer from Arkansas is quite the player, because he wants us to install some dynamic gold in X7s. All right, X7s. These are no joke, right? These are no joke. And they're heavy, but this is what he's looking for. They're heavy. And finally, the two things that we're going to use to top it off is we're going to use a mid-sized Golf Pride MCC Align and a BB, give it to you the right way here, a BB and F ferrule. All right, fairly simple, straightforward, until in the note it says they want D5, D5, D6. Well, you go to the website and the specs say D3, D5, D5. So here's where it comes into play when you got to really understand what you're doing, all right, or understand the specs that you're working with. So what do we got to do? Well, we got to go measure just to see what we're working with. So now when we see these kinds of things, we measure the heads, and we see the heads, they're not out of spec, they're just normal weights. They're not heavy, they're not light. All right, then we start measuring the shafts, and typically at this level, I'm expecting to see some very, very consistent numbers. The first two come out very, very well, and then the other one is 4 grams heavier. That's going to play for our favor, but what, right? Normally I'm looking at 1 or 2. This 4 is just different. Then, just for the fun of it, I measure the grips, and they're heavy because they're mid-size and they're corded. And then I wanted to see what the ferrules would be at. All right, so once we measure all the grips, and they're pretty consistent, then we measure the ferrules. And the ferrules are worth a couple of grams. So that we needed to know that going in as well. So we get all that done. So what does all that mean? Now we're going back to swing weight, probably my least favorite topic. But so when they talk about swing weight, and Mr. Vokey and the whole clan are talking about grips, they're talking about putting one of these guys on here. Your standard issue Tour Velvet, all right, just a Tour Velvet. So the Tour Velvet comes in at about 54, we'll say about 54, right? 54, 55, 50 gram-ish, right? I got a mid-size. A mid-size is only 4 or 5 grams more than that. So, you know, that's a lot of difference, all right? Because now the mid-size and this other one with all the cord and the extra stuff on it is 67, almost 68. All right, so let's do some calculations. So we're going to assume the 54 gram, the 125 shaft, and the normal heads, and that was going to give us the specs that we wanted, right, from the website. All right. So we've already added, we went from 54, 55 to 67, 68. So we're going to go 13, 14 grams. So what do we know? About 4 grams in the butt's worth of swing weight. So we've got about 3 swing weight points that were already too light. All right, 3. Then we go back to the shaft, and we've added about 7 grams. So that's about 1 swing weight. Now we're 2 swing weight points light. Now we've got 1 in this ferrule. This ferrule is going to add 1. So now we're 1 swing weight point light. Now that's for spec, right? So in the gap wedge, he wants a D5, which means he's 2. So now we're 3 swing weight points light. Keep that in mind, 3. So we're going to write that one down. If we're, now go back, now we're in the sand wedge, we were 1 across the board in all these wedges, right? 1 swing weight point off. And in the sand wedge, he wanted D5, and that's what the spec is for these things, okay? All right, so now for the sand wedge. The sand wedge, it wants to be D5. That's the spec we're shooting for. So again, we're about 3 light on the grip. We take 1 off for the ferrule. We take 1 off for the shaft, and we need to get 1. So we need to add 1 swing weight point in order to get where we need to go. All right, now we go back to the same thing. 3, right, for everything. And now we get back the shaft, we get back the ferrule, we're down 1, but now we got to go up 2, we got to go up 1 more in order to get to D6. So we need to add 2 for that one. All right, so to get where we need to go, in order to get where he wants, we're on approximately 6 grams, 2 grams, and about 4 grams. Okay, that's what we're going to put in there in order to equal him out. Now, I've already spine and flow the shafts. He doesn't care where the logos go, and it's a good thing because they're not in the same spot. So now we've got everything weighed, so it's just a matter of assembly. Now, these guys are a couple of things. I know you can't see in there, but these guys have, here it is, these guys have a shoulder. And they were supposed to be taking a ferrule that had a shoulder go in there. We've talked about this one before, that if you have a shoulder in here, and particularly if it's graphite, you go with the shoulder. You go with the ferrule that's got the shoulder or the centering ferrule. In this particular instance, we are going to use the BB&F because it's a steel shaft, it's very, very stout. It'll be able to take that kind of change. I'm okay with that one. We just got to make sure that the fit is very, very tight, okay? The other part is that I'm going to have to clean these out just to make sure. We got to prep the tip. We've got to glue them. So I'm going to go to the bench. We're going to do that part of it. And then once it's dry, we'll come back and we'll do the finish assembly and do the checking to see where it's at. So give me about a day and we'll be right back. everybody. So the glue's dried, and we put on the, you saw me put on the ferrules. I've got the ferrules finished, and they turned out really nice. I kind of like them. The finish on these is raw, right? They look almost zinc-like, but it's a raw finish, and that means they're going to patina, they're going to rust, that kind of thing. Now, we talked about the shaft. We put in the extra weights for the swing weight, and then we put on these grips, and these grips are mid-size, and they're massively heavy. And the one thing we talk about when we do swing weighting is when we put these bigger grips, we think about, oh my God, we got to put on all this extra weight at the tip just to make up for it. And that's totally not true. All right, these things are heavy on their own. All right, the sand wedge is in the 500 gram range. That is humongous. All right, so the idea of like, I got to have this swing weight, not necessarily my thing, but you know, we try and hit that. That's the reason why we were going for D5. Which was the spec, which was based on a really light grip, which was based on all these things that we were talking about changing. So we put them all together, right? So let's see how it works out. And I'm looking at it, and it's a D3. 2 off, not bad, but for all our calculations, right? Let's see how I did on the other ones. And the next one's D3. Well, or at least we're consistent. One more. And D3. Well, dude, I got D3. We'll put it that way. These things are heavy. You will not be disappointed, to be sure. I did a flex reading on them prior to going out there, and they're so far off my chart I couldn't even tell you what the flexes are. So that's what a 7X does. All right, so we missed it by 2. I'd like to see a little closer, but not too bad. The whole idea here is that the parts you got to inspect, you got to see what you know, make calculations as best you can. And if I really wanted to get there, I'd been adding some gross number of weight in order to get where he wanted to go. Honestly, when he sees it, I'm sure he's going to feel it and he's going to be okay with it. But we want to make sure. So the ferrules turned out really good. The look is actually pretty nice. I'm not sure if I'm a raw finish guy or not, but nice set of wedges. So again, if you have any questions, put them in the show notes below. Again, on Mondays, we do a live stream at 5:30 Eastern Time. Talk about golf equipment, refitting, repairs. Join us anytime you want. It's on YouTube. And as always, let's see your scores go low.